So listen, okay, so now I'm going to complain. It's time to complain. So last week we talked about the debate, and I complained about how Kamala was putting forth a lot of essentially right-wing positions. And I posted that video yesterday, and people were mad. People were mad, and people were shitty about the fact that they were mad. So some of the criticisms or some of the comments basically that people left were along the lines of, she's saying these things because she has to appeal to a centrist position in order to win, right? And people were like, oh my God, she's not right-wing. You have brain worms if you think that Kamala is right-wing. And I ended up having like a back and forth with someone. I was basically saying that like, okay, so here are the areas where Kamala is kind of right-wing. And I was asking people, and no one was able to answer me, how are the things that she's advocating for in the debate. Now, I have familiarized myself since then with the Democratic Party platform. I watched Steve Shive's video where he's saying, here's all the things in the Democratic Party platform. These are not Kamala's positions, to be clear, though. That is the Democratic Party platform, which she is presumptively going to support. And I have listened to an interview of hers, and so, okay, it's like, okay, I have a little bit more rounded of an opinion now. But just looking at what was said during the debate, I'm trying to understand how wanting more fracking is not right-wing. I'm trying to understand why fracking is how is that a centrist position as opposed to a right-wing position? And she has said that she wants to, if I'm remembering correctly, she has said that she wants to send money for creating more border wall. And that is a right-wing position. Like, Ronald Reagan wasn't even that far right on the immigration concept. And so, like, it just seems to me that a lot of people fundamentally misunderstand what left and right mean in a way that makes the conversation basically impossible to have. I guess, like, we're reaching this point where I guess it's like not even worth it to label things as left and right wing because of the fact that people are going to have aggressively misunderstand what you're trying to say. Most analysis from actual intelligent journalists is that she is showing centrist to gain more of the middle. Being from California myself, I can attest that Kamala is a lot more progressive than Biden. Okay, sure, yes. But like, so yeah, her stated positions are more progressive than Biden, but that does not make her actually definitionally progressive, And like, this was something that this person I was arguing with seemed to not understand. She was like, or this commenter was like, oh, she said that the climate was an existential threat. I'm like, okay, well, she said vaguely that the climate change issue is an existential threat, but she didn't, like, that's an opportunity if you have a plan to say, I'm going to create jobs by investing in the renewable energy sector. This is my plan to put more solar panels on houses. I'm going to give a tax break, and I'm going to increase the tax break that you already get for putting solar panels on your houses or whatever. She did not have any concrete policy plans to back up her assertion that climate change is a big deal, but she did have concrete policy plans regarding expanding domestic oil and expanding fracking, which are both bad for the environment. They're both bad for climate change. Well, I guess I don't know that fracking is bad for climate change. Well, I mean, there's huge machinery involved, so probably, but like less directly. But yeah, like, fracking is a right-wing position. It can't even be a centrist liberal one. Where was the debate held? Obviously, it was a tactical talking point. Yeah, somebody mentioned that she said that because it's Pennsylvania. Here's my problem with this. People keep saying, oh, she needs to appeal to centrist voters in order to win. But like, she doesn't do literally anything to appeal to leftist voters. And then if she loses, say, this is what happens every time. This is what happened with Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton did not do anything to court left-leaning voters. And I'm not even saying leftists. I'm not saying socialists. I'm not saying communists. I'm not saying anarchists. Left-leaning voters, people who want like Medicare for all, people who want cannabis to be legalized, like basic shit that the majority of Americans support. This is not radical stuff. And so they don't cater to those people at all. And then they will blame the left for not turning out and voting. This is the double-edged sword. This is the thing that pisses me off about this, is that they will not, they're like, oh, we need all these centrist voters. We're going to put 100% of our energy into getting these centrist voters, or to try to pull Republicans who are disgusted with Trump's comportment, not do anything for leftist voters, left-leaning voters, progressive voters, and then blame us for when they lose. Hi, we would like you to hit like and subscribe and check out the links in the description so that you can donate to the GoFundMe or the Patreon, and check out the links for merchandise. Check out this cute hoodie I'm wearing, OMG. Do it for the kitty. He's such a good boy. So it's like, okay, you could at least play both sides. You could, in the same debate, say, hey, I'm going to invest in renewable energy, and also I want to create less dependency on foreign oil and expand domestic oil. Okay, I'm still going to be unhappy with your oil position, but at least you are pretending like you're going to actually materially do something to help the environment, instead of just saying, oh yeah, climate change is a big deal, and then not have any actual policies. Her positions on immigration are right-leaning, specifically so Trump can't campaign against her on it. Same for some of her other crappy positions. Yeah, but the thing is that, like, what I'm saying is she's not even playing both sides. You could, if you were a real centrist, you could say, hey, I'm going to do these. Like, so here's another thing on the immigration thing. She could say both, that she wants to increase border security and that she wants to put more funding into the immigration process. She could say, we should hire more immigration judges. We should hire more people. We're going to create jobs and hire more people to process all of the paperwork involved. That's what being a centrist would be. It would be saying, like, okay, here's a right-wing tactic and a left-wing tactic, and we're going to do both. But that's not what she does. This is why I think that, like the bastardization of centrism, basically, that people say, like, oh, she's a centrist. She's like, no, how are these positions centrist? They aren't. They can't, you can't say, if she's only catering to conservatives, that's not centrism. That's conservatism. That's her becoming a right-winger in order to gain votes. Like, this is the thing that I'm so frustrated with. Kitty says, this is the first time I've seen the Democratic Party so openly admit that they were going to allow as much conservative policy to go through in her presidency. Most lie the whole campaign and then say, we had to keep prices down. She's just telling us that she's going to fuck up from the front. Yeah, from the get-go. Yeah, it's terrible for fracking is terrible for climate change because it's a way to use the carbon that they're capturing as a propellant to get more oil and natural gas out of the ground. That carbon then doesn't stay captured, and they're allowed to count it as having been removed from the environment. It also uses water at stages which often will pollute underground water systems which have crazy rippling effects. Okay, cool. Yeah. But this was, like, just talking about this one conversation that I was having, and, like, the amusement factor, and, like, the reason why the stream right now is called Smug White Envy is that, like, the climate is one of the things that I'm like, okay, I grant that she's better on XYZ issue than Trump, or she's better on XYZ issue than Biden. Cool, I can acknowledge that. And I can also say that even when and if Kamala wins, let's say Harris Walls, let's say they win, right? They are not going to meaningfully take action about climate change, which means we are still on a trajectory for global food and water shortages. Like, that, the science on that has not changed. The economic predictions on that have not changed, and they won't unless we do something extreme as far as limiting oil and gas use, and as far as, rehabilitating the environment and all this stuff, So I brought that up in this conversation with this individual, and they said, this was the other thing I hated that caused me to stop watching videos after the Poppy and Xena stuff. The smug white NB screaming at people about food and water shortages and not actually getting off their ass to do anything meaningful is not a good YouTuber to watch. Which was just insane to me because, like, there's layers. Like onions and ogres, it has layers. You know, what does me being a white person or an NB have to do with how sanctimonious I am about the climate, I guess? Like, it really comes across to me like the same way that people would call Greta Thunberg, like, oh, she's so smug. Oh, she thinks she knows everything. So, like, there's that part. And then there's the aspect of this, like, oh, you're not actually getting off your ass to do anything meaningful. It's like, first of all, communicating that information to people is meaningful because nobody else is telling you that. I don't think that there is anyone, even in the leftist space, and tell me if I'm wrong, I don't think that there's anybody in the leftist space who's saying, I mean, to be fair, I don't know that you would consider him a leftist, but Tom Nicholson, I want to say, he just did a video recently about Just Stop Oil, which primarily does their activism in the UK. But so like there has been other people talking about climate change. But as far as like lefty streamers and other people in a like similar demographic to myself, I think I'm the only person telling you about the impending food and water shortages. And I am doing something about it in the sense that I am moving to somewhere that's climate stable so that I can provide food and water locally and so that I can contribute to a local ecosystem to, you know, oh, what can we do to prevent forest fires in this area and like all this shit. But like, I'm sorry, I'm not an eco-terrorist, I guess. Like, I'm sorry that I'm like, what does do anything meaningful against global climate change mean? Like global capitalist climate change mean? It's super weird. So I don't even know what to think about this. Thank you to the patrons, especially Bo E, Hapax Legomenon Patient Advocate, Tiago Nascimento, Mersh Rolvag, Sarah A, Jack, Amanda B, Michelle Frateroli, Michelle Winter, Wellington Marcus, Danielle McDonald, Suzanne Maynard, DZXN, Jamie Jam, Nova, Sojo, Past Null Infinity, Elizabeth Bartell, Jericho, Athiet, Desi Quiche, Celeste, Mr. Atheist, Liam Hodgson, Kevin Young, and Ella V. Nobody.